Hey everybody, my name is Andrew Davis and you are watching Conversations in Pop Culture, brought to you by my sponsor, Mixum Printing, the smarter way to print. I know printing your creative project can be confusing and stressful, but Mixum is here to make it easy. From their instant quote calculator that lets you get as many quotes as you want for free to their 24-hour customer service, Mixum is here to make your printing experience run smoothly from start to finish. And right now, you can actually choose from a range of premium printing options and materials. And the company has printed so many people's Kickstarters who have been on this very show. Sam Quinlan showed off what Mixum Printing looks like with 47 Furious Tales. So if you want to see what it actually looks like, go check out that interview. And they actually print in the United States, Canada, which is where Corey's from. Tip of my hat, who's on the show right now, guys. Australia, and the UK, and Mixum can print and reach your audience anywhere in the world. So if you're ready to print smarter, not harder, head over to Mixum.com. And right now, they're actually running a very cool promotion where listeners of my show can drop my name, Andrew Davis, in the message tab to get 5% off their first order. So that's Mixam.com. Again, type my name, Andrew Davis, in the message tab of your current order to receive 5% discount on your first order. And I'm sure you can attest that every percentage point counts when you're funding a Kickstarter, whether you're 300% over or 3% over, every percentage point counts. So without further ado, I have returning guest, comic creator Corey Hardiman. So welcome back.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, I know. What is this, the third or the fourth time now?
Yeah, third or the fourth, one or the other. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either, because the last 2 years, the last 22 months of my life, all like go into one entire long week. You know, I feel like it's Weekend at Bernie's all over again.
Right on. I think a lot of us are feeling that.
And it's going to continue. It's going to continue, and I'm a very pessimistic person, which means I'm always right eventually. So anyhow.
Which means you're realistic.
So all things and all kidding aside, obviously, I do want to get the preliminaries out of the way. You actually have proper lighting this time. So right off the bat, I just want to say thank you for having proper lighting. If you would like, though, and if people want to comment, if we get about 100 people watching live, we can make the lights shittier for everybody's convenience.
Turn my halo down lower.
But all jokes aside, you have a lot going on with Sister Mercy.
Big time,
and it's being funded into a graphic novel. And so what is going on with that? And I don't want to rehash everything because we beat up Sister Mercy the last 2 or 3 interviews, but what is going on with the graphic novel and really bringing that out at this point to the project?
So the graphic novel is the first 4 issues combined, and it has the standard and new variant covers of each of the first 4 issues in there as well. Along with the first issue is recolored by the same colors you did issues 2, 3, and 4. So it had the same feel for the entire book, and there was no great, transition from one style to the other. And also in this campaign, we did what I originally in the campaign now is labeled the Sister Mercy sketchbook, but it's been aptly renamed The Art of Sister Mercy, which is an add-on, a 28-page issue featuring most of the variant covers, some of the pin-ups, and some of the single commissions that we've worked on that we've had over the years, all put together in one issue as well.
Yeah, and I kind of want to dive into all this, where obviously doing a graphic novel is very different than doing a single issue. It's different printing, it's different binding, it's also somewhat of a different market. And so what has this been like for you? Because I think this is your first graphic novel that you've done. And obviously the way it goes in comics is that you have, 3 issues that then become a graphic novel. If it's a 3-issue or a 3-parter, or if it's a 4-parter, or some people are doing it in a 6-issue, volume where it's a 6-issue miniseries and then they put it into a graphic novel for the 7th Kickstarter. And so what is this process like for you? Because it is very different than doing issue 4 or issue 3 of just Sister Mercy, or issues 1, 2, 3, and 4 that they've done.
Going into it is very comparable to my first Kickstarter because I didn't know what to expect. I've built up a little bit of a returning fan base, that I've been grateful enough that I've had come back for every issue. So I knew that aside from the few people that collected graphic novels, that this would have to reach a new audience as well, and a good time to bring in new readers. But I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if this was going to meet the threshold or not, or exceed it by a lot. And in the end, it's actually turned out to be, so far at least, and we're 10 days in, right on par with the last two issues. All three of them seem to be, those two and this one seem to be following the exact same trajectory so far, which is better than expected, and very, very happy to see.
And then to even go further into this, because graphic novels are fascinating, and there is a big shift going on in comics right now, where there's people who won't read a comic book, they'll read a graphic novel. Mm-hmm. And also a graphic novel to some degree, because there's a lot of people, their first comic is not the traditional floppy, but it's a graphic novel. And yep. Also for comic shops, to some degree, it's also an easier sale when they have a graphic novel, and that's also an entry point where certain comic shops are saying, well, graphic novel sales, and in 2021, graphic novel sales have been killing it, moreover just than floppy books and regular, monthly books. And I think it's people are around, because of COVID, less things are open, less people want to leave, and also people want a complete story and they don't want to wait, 4 or 5 months in between Kickstarters. And so what is that like you also as a marketing play? Because there's life outside of Kickstarter.
With that, I'm basically still learning as I'm going. This is all new ground, and just sort of taking it as it comes. And for this story in particular, where it gathers the first 4 issues, this is actually the halfway point of the story. So this is the first half called Paradise Lost, and the second 4 will eventually be combined in the second half, which is called Kingdom Come. And so it's it's different so far in just not being really having any familiarity with it. Before this, I had done my 4th Kickstarter campaign for issue 4, and I'm starting to develop a little bit of familiarity, knowing what to expect and stuff like this. But now I feel I'm back to being a fish out of water again. I'm a newbie, just kind of like doing this for the first time. So I really, really don't know what to expect.
And then also, we're going to dive into a bunch of stuff going on with it, but you mentioned something as well with this, where the first issue was done and colors were done by somebody different. And some of the artwork, I think, was also done by somebody different. And there needed some stuff to be touched up because, well, your first comic out of the gate is always rough. I think it's a safe assumption for everybody in the business. And so what prompted you to want to recolor it and want to reshoot it and make it more congruent with the other 3 issues? Because, well, that costs money, that, can break relationships to some degree. You don't want to go and mess somebody's artwork up and offend a colorist per se, but you also want it to be congruent, and you also want to give it a new refire and give it a fresh new, I guess, paint a coat, for lack of a better word. And also you're putting it into a graphic novel, and that's the opportunity to sort of do it as well. And so what was that entire internal discussion? Because it's not a cheap internal solution. It's not changing a name before the book's released. It's legitly reshooting something off.
That's right. And it certainly wasn't meant by any means any insult to the original colorist, Lancelot Corcoran. He did a great job.
It was meant to be a triple insult, but that's not the point here.
Yeah, no, but it's just like I said, and I really wanted the reader to have the same consistency going all of the way through, right, and not to have some because both colorists did a great job, but there's definitely a very, very drastic style between the colorings. But on top, not only on top of that, but when I did issue 1, a friend of mine that helped me, because I really went into that blind, and a friend of mine helped me figure out a lot, and he came up with the CWH Comics branding, which was the branding that I used for the first 4 issues. But it was never, though I'm very, very grateful for his help in doing that for me, it never really hit the nail on the head in what I wanted to be if things were successful and I was able to expand. So I've changed that and dropped that to Attic Door Comics, and hoping to take things further. So I've rebranded all of the first 4 issues. I've dropped the CWH Comics logo and rebranded them all Attic Door Comics.
So we're going to talk about that too.
Yeah, no, and this is to answer your question. So it's basically going all the way back to the start and doing everything the right way that I wanted to do it, now that I have a bit more of an understanding of how everything is going, right? So
Yeah, and it also, I think, is important to, in a lot of ways, have consistency. I mean, this is one of the biggest problems, and I'm sure that you back a bunch of Kickstarters, and it agitates me as a consumer. I haven't created a Kickstarter. Certain people know, and I'll make it crystal clear that I'm going to be launching one in November. And so I don't know much about Kickstarters, but I am a consumer of the product, and I use the platform. And from a getting out projects, and being consistent on that, it bothers me and it irks me. And I'm the consumer, so I'm paying for it. When art styles change in a book, and I don't mean a cover, style. I mean like the actual art in a book or colorists. I mean, I've seen that, and there's a lot of turnover. It definitely turns me off as a reader, and it turns me off as a customer. And so I think consistency in a lot of ways matters because, well, that's how you keep somebody involved and keep them there. And I think that it's super important that if you start something with one artist, then you need to finish it with that artist. If you can, obviously things happen, but it's just from a business standpoint, being consistent is such an important element in business.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's hard though also being an indie creator where the gap between each issue is so long. Something we're actually trimming down with 4 more issues to go to tell the second half of the story. We don't want it to be 2 issues a year, so I think we're up to 3 issues coming up in each calendar year. So that should be able to finish the story off faster. But it's hard to keep a team together that long, also as well, right? Especially in this day and age. And I've been very, very lucky so far with some of the guys that I've worked with. Ricardo and George Vieira that have, stuck with me through thick and thin and are still working with me today. So I've been really, 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 really lucky that way.
Yeah, keeping a team is beyond complicated.
It really is.
Keeping customers involved is complicated. I know all about this where things come and go, and it is beyond complicated. And I'm learning firsthand that, it's not an easy thing, and at some point I'm going to be building a team, and it's going to be a feat of it in its own. So anyway, though, you did mention Attic Door Comics, and obviously you branded as CWH, right?
Originally, yep.
I'm making sure I heard it right. And It's been a while since I've actually looked at my Sister Mercy books. They're in my nice long box. Some of them I just put up on Instagram. I couldn't put up the nude ones. I'm an adult here. I don't want to get demonetized or get kicked off Instagram. It is not for me. I like the Instagram platform,
Absolutely.
And then if you get 100 people in this thing, live, I'll show some nude covers, guys. I'm just saying, that if people show up, I deliver. But what was that like of saying, okay, this brand went this way and it was good, but now we need to shift things up and make a change and rebrand, and even looking beyond just Sister Mercy and saying, okay, what if we do a prequel? What if we do a sequel? What if I go and do something that's in the same world but is a whole different title? Or that even the idea now where everybody's creating an imprint or a publishing house to some degree.
Exactly.
And thinking long term, obviously that's kind of the path I'm going down, where Pop Anime Comics is definitely more becoming a holding company at this point. It's an unofficial holding company in a lot of ways. It holds a lot of assets.
Yeah.
And it's very, very interesting because that's just not you. It's everybody in indie comics right now is going down that path.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And again, it's something that's it is new territory to me, and taking it in small steps. And it's basically what I've wanted to do from the very beginning. I've wanted it to pretty much be Attic Door Comics right from the start. And coming up, there is a spin-off that I've dropped a short advertisement for called Hope and Sin, which is going to be spun off out of the world of Sister Mercy. And that's later in 2022, hopefully, if everything stays on schedule. And Lord knows, whatever other titles as well, right? There's so much we'd like to do. And since the Sister Mercy campaign's been doing well, I'd like to spread that into other titles and just grow more and see what happens.
And then even going further into this, because I think you and me spoke about this, it's the idea, and I've spoken with other people, well, obviously I come from the comic book investing side of things. And so right now, the discussion in regular mainstream comics for those who are interested. We don't know how indie's going to go. We have no idea whether indie is the future. If it's not the future, it gets complicated when you have companies like Image coming in and with Lady Mechanica because, well, things get complicated once you start going mainstream and you're also going, Kickstarter and even Nocturno with Scott Snyder and Keanu Reeves. It's a complicated entity, and they've only made it more complicated. But obviously, when you rebrand, I think you only have a certain amount of stock left on certain books from the CWH brand, and to some degree that protects value because those are what are known as true first prints. First thing. And so nobody knows exactly where all this is necessarily going, but what is that like to say, hey, look, I'm not going to go and reprint a cover, and we're going to talk about the redacted version in a second. It's going to segue right in, but I'm not going to go reprint, the first issue's cover with just the new branding on it versus that. And so protecting value and also protecting people and saying, hey, look, if you missed the first Kickstarter, well, you missed out on that book.
Well, I'd like to have something with every Kickstarter that's only for that campaign. And again, this is something that I've been learning also as I go, right? So there's always, but I also still want to have the back issues accessible to new readers. So somebody can always jump in anytime they want with any campaign. But at the same time, I believe the last one had 5 different covers. But after the campaign ends, only 2 covers, usually the new variant, which one which will be the standard edition, become regular. The other ones are done permanently after that print run.
And it's also the idea that for the people who back, it makes it a necessity for them to back a project and back that Kickstarter because those covers are exclusive. And then once those covers sell out of your stock, they're gone. And I could tell you for a fact that, I think it was the 3rd one that had the Steph Wilson.
Yeah.
And in that cover is really not easy to find on eBay. I don't think Steph has any of them left on his store. And when you do find it, it's like a $30, $40 cover at this point. Okay. And so obviously it's a very, very expensive cover. And certain covers tend to do that in indie right now. It's a very interesting position that's going on. And I think it's also nice for me because I have that cover. I feel protected.
And that one's permanently out of print. I will never be printing that cover again on anything. So anybody that has that one, if the image is available in the Sister Mercy sketchbook is one of the pages, but it's the cover itself. It's whoever has it now. That's the only people that get it. Along with everything else that has the CWH Comics branding is now all finished. Right, that will never be on. There'll be no more reprints of everything else.
And also, I mean, that's also very important as well, because with everything that's going on anyway in the entire comic world, there's a lot of IPs that get optioned, a lot of IPs get bought, a lot of IPs get turned into something. Whether they get turned into something good or bad, that's up for debate. But at this stage in the game, Hollywood and Netflix and Hulu and Amazon, and soon enough, you're going to have Sony. Sony owns Funimation and they own Crunchyroll. Yep. You don't think they're coming knocking on certain IPs for animation rights? I mean, it is coming, and it's going to be very interesting. What's about to happen in the next 10 years in that segment? So obviously, there's a lot of stuff going on, and I like knowing that certain books that I have are not going to be reprinted, and that there is a limited finite ability, because it makes me feel that, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, but if all of a sudden you were reprinting that Steph Wilson cover every single week, it would diminish its value, and I would feel cheated as a buyer, and I feel betrayed. And I think it's a big issue right now in Kickstarter to some degree. People feel betrayed when that happens.
See, now I haven't experienced any negativity yet. So with
I'm not saying you betrayed me. I'm just saying.
No, I understand what you're saying, but where I sell back issues with each campaign, I usually make back issues available.
So what I'm saying is that if you went and then you printed that Steph Wilson cover every single week and you added another 15.
Oh, I see where you're coming from. Absolutely, for sure.
That would agitate a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely.
Offensive. If you printed an extra 200 copies of that and then you offer it in, the Sister Mercy 4, you have 50 available in this campaign, for instance, that's not offensive to people. because nobody feels cheated. It's when you go out and then you're at a con, you have 15,000 of them because you just ran it off on a printer, you know?
Right. Yeah, for sure. No, I see where you're coming from completely.
But I digress. I'm an investor. I'm trying to make money here, guys. I like money. I like money. Money's fun. You know, money can be very elastic. When you are cash poor, money is essential. Okay.
Absolutely. Oh, trust me. I know.
When you're in college and you just are looking for beer money and you have comic books that are worth money and then you turn into beer money, you're a very happy individual, is all I'm going to say.
It was a long time ago, but I actually have memories like that firsthand, so I can identify with that.
And so I've been there. Everybody's been there. You know, anybody who's a serious collector has a story like that. And then you realize that, oh, I can make money with comics. It's a great day. But anyhow, I do want to get into what I mentioned, which is the Redact issue of Sister Mercy 1.
Yeah.
And so I think Fred Manhano, or thank you. I wasn't going to get it. Recolored it. I think, you know, and then it obviously became more congruent. And then I think he colored, or he might have done something with the cover. And then I think that Jason Hare,
I think, I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
I'm not gonna say the second name because I'm not gonna get that one right either. Yeah. I don't know if you guys, that's Canadian, French, or indifferent.
I found out today, as a matter of fact, that's France, French, and that's Gwenelle Dalago.
And so obviously that's the second cover for you know, or cover B for issue 1 Redacted as well.
Yep.
And so what was this like, building out 2 brand new covers that never came out before? Obviously are the first new covers for Attic Door Comics beyond just the graphic novels, and is sort of kicking off, I guess, the standard of what it's going to look like.
Yeah, well, it was, since I was getting the issue recolored anyways, figured, you know, just might as well go the full 9 yards and go with the covers as well. And I'm really happy with them. I think they're both beautiful covers. And I also, with this campaign, wanted to have something extra for the backers that have backed all the campaigns previously, that, you know, want, if there's something a little bit different that they may not necessarily want the combined graphic novel, or if they're only comic book collectors, and that way there's something there for specifically comic book collectors as well.
Yeah, and I like both this, and also you've done the nude cover as well as a traditional cover, which is always nice, and that's also a big thing. And it's very interesting with what's going on. And obviously, one of my favorite people who's in the comic world is Sandrew. I think did some coloring on the nude that Ricardo Silva did. You know, for what
for the last issue he did, yeah. Sandrew's worked on 2 or 3 different covers now, I think, yeah.
And so obviously that sort of leads right into the rewards we're about to talk about. And obviously there's a bunch of stuff, but and I'm sure we're going to get into it. So obviously there's both physical and digital rewards. And you do something interesting that I haven't seen, and I'm curious actually the rationale behind it. Is that because I know that Isaac Fox does this as well from Astral Ticket, is that, and I've seen it a lot more, but you were one of the first people that I start with, is that you offer, you know, for the standard edition on a digital level, it's like $5, and for the nude version, it's $7. And I've never seen anything like that before you with Sister Mercy, I think, for issue 2 or maybe issue 3, where that was offered, and it was something that I was a little confused on, to be honest.
Right.
And I'm curious because now I'm seeing it a lot more. And it's a very interesting concept because it's sort of NFT and digital currency oriented, for lack of a better word.
Right.
And so I'm curious where that idea came from, even the rationale, because you've done it again in this as well.
Well, when I wrote the first issue, it only had one cover. When I first launched when I launched the campaign, it launched with a single cover. And 2 weeks in, the campaign was struggling, hadn't hit 50%, wasn't really doing too much. And I just started looking at the campaigns that were working, and I saw a lot of nude variant covers. So I messaged my artist and I said, well, let's try a nude variant cover, and we'll do a 100 issue limited edition, make it worth $2 more to, since it has a little bit more value, and it made the difference like almost instantly. I was so shocked. So that definitely helped direct the where the comic book was going, and it added more of that element which previously wasn't intended to be there. But I think I've worked it in organically, so it doesn't seem too forced. And we've just gone with that ever since. And it seemed to it worked with that very first campaign. It was what got us over the hump. And we just continued with that.
And I'm now seeing that model being used a lot more, and I was very curious about it because it is something that, and obviously, I've only been back in Kickstarter seriously for about 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously there's people, and I've only backed like 32 projects. So obviously, I haven't seen everything, but with all the people I've interviewed, it's now becoming more of a thing where people offer that thing and new covers as a digital entity. And I was just curious if it was crypto related or not, because that's where things are going anyway. It's a very, rooted principle in exclusivity in crypto and all that stuff. But then also you offer just regular digital editions and everything in between. I think you offer a digital catch-up as well, and a variety of other stuff. And I'll be the first to say that shipping is expensive, especially, the last time I bought, issue 4, the shipping was about a third of what I spent. Just on the campaign. So, and obviously I'm in the U.S., which means that the dollar is stronger than the Canadian dollar. I don't know what you have in Canada, but what it's called.
It's a dollar. It's just a Canadian dollar. A little bit more colorful, but not worth quite as much. So
you guys steal everything from us. It's okay.
Yeah, that's right.
You have free healthcare. We don't. So you win some, you lose some.
Right. Yeah.
but I digress right there. But shipping is very expensive. So obviously digital, everything is very efficient. But then getting into what really is the meat of this campaign is the graphic novel. And I know that John Davis did the first cover. I think Justin Hunt did a variant. And then there's a few other people who have done some variant stuff as well. And there's a few options for different covers on the graphic novel. I think Ricardo Silva did one. I think that, Mauro Zapata,
I think, Mauro Zapata.
And then I don't know who else did a cover, but I think the Ricardo cover is sort of brand new added just recently.
That's right. That was a late add-on.
And so what is this like to have so many options and give, people the ability to choose what they want? Because I've been saying this for a long time at this point where, the things that I do is big libraries, on demand when I can read, watch, or enjoy something, and then customization / choice. And so what is that like? Because everybody has different art styles, everybody has different tastes. And so what is that like for you to say, hey, I'm going to give people 3-4 options on a graphic novel?
Originally, it was only supposed to be 3 was my plan. I wanted to have a Kickstarter exclusive cover that was only going to be available with this campaign and this campaign only. And that limited print runs right down to the amount of backers that chose that tier. And then the 2 other tiers that would be available for people down the road. The fourth cover sort of came out of the blue. I was talking with Ricardo, and he surprised me with that one. And I sent it to Lanyo Alves for coloring, and just absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite pieces, and I'm so happy. It's those little surprises from him every once in a while that really make it worth it.
And then even going further into this, because one of the other things you do, and I'm super curious about this, is the sketchbook, or also known as the Artist Sister Mercy at this point. And that has a bunch of stuff in it where it's very much like a Zenescope gallery book, or, the swimsuit edition of Zenescope, or the swimsuit edition of a lot of comics, where you have a bunch of characters in there in a particular style or different art styles, or you have a cover gallery book, and it's sort of the best of a certain character or covers, or relating to swimsuit covers or something like that, or just pinups in general. And so where did that idea come from? What was it like to include it in the graphic novel? Because there are people who all they do in comics is collect swimsuit editions. they don't collect anything else, or they collect gallery covers, or they collect different things, or they want the cheesecake art and they want things, and they also don't necessarily want the cover because they want to experience all the covers. And sometimes with particular books, picking up an entire set of Sister Mercy up to this point, even if you were backing from the first Kickstarter, it can be very expensive very quickly. And so how did that idea come about, and what was it even like building it out and offering it? Because it is something that is nice at a certain point to have.
It was something that was an idea I played with for probably a year or so, but I hadn't really committed to the thought of doing it. And finally, last week, actually, 1 week into the campaign, I decided to, just because I've commissioned so many artists that have done pinups that have only been on Facebook or have appeared here and there, and and now are gone. And I feel like they deserve a little bit more life, and they should be on paper somewhere for people to appreciate as well, right? So that was nice. And to get back to what we were talking about just very quickly earlier in regards to the shipping, as I've mentioned before, the shipping out of Canada is absolutely, it's so much more expensive than the American shipping. You guys really
your shipping out of Canada, my last book was about $22.
Yeah,
I could tell you that I ship comics out for 11 to 12 bucks. So shipping, the only reason why I say it's expensive is that it's shipping in general has gotten expensive. About 6 months ago, it was about $9 to ship a comic in the U.S. For me to ship a comic to Illinois, which is the middle of the country, because I'm in Connecticut, was about $9 on average.
Okay.
So
you guys have something called media mail, but I'm not very familiar with that.
I ship in priority, but I ship in priority because it gives me $50 of insurance. So I ship a little bit more expensive. I could ship a book for $5, but I get no insurance. I choose to ship it for more money because I get insurance, because I want to be protected. Because when you're selling a book that's a $45 book, $50 insurance is included. God forbid something happens, somebody's busting my balls on eBay, I'm protected. And I've been in the business and understanding as a seller that, yes, I'm more expensive, but you will be refunded immediately if something goes wrong because I'm covered versus having to fight me. That's the whole reason why somebody will spend an extra $3 when I'm sending something out. Now, though, it's about $11. And I don't know how Canada is affected, but it's pricey.
Yeah, we did between my first and second campaign, our shipping here I did a substantial jump. But on this campaign, I actually found similar size, because the books haven't been printed yet, but I found graphic novels of the same page count out of my stack of Marvel graphic novels, and did up some dummy packages and went to the post office so that I had the exact cost of the shipping, right? So the backers are paying the exact, so there's no surplus, and nobody gets hurt on either end. And but it has been hard with the shipping being, because a lot of people that look at my project, they don't realize I'm running it from Canada, so they don't necessarily they see the higher shipping cost. They don't necessarily understand why. But I backed one campaign, and they had a stamp on it from the US, and it was $3.50 is what they cost to mail that to me. And for me to turn around and mail that back to them, the exact same package without opening it, would have been 4 times the cost.
Yeah, and it gets expensive. And I don't know when you're shipping out this project exactly, and I don't remember the exact delivery date, but in the US, I mean, we're in a mail rate hike. And I don't want to embarrass this person, but they said, what they said to their backers, and they threw it out in a Facebook group. And the only reason why I bring this up is that it's a legitimate point. Is they said, would you guys mind waiting an extra, 6 weeks for me to ship out, because it is a big difference with a postal hike, and it's a big concern. And I didn't back this person's project, but I don't necessarily mind waiting an extra 6 weeks because I understand what it is with postage. And so I'm not too sure when you're dropping it exactly and shipping this out, but obviously postal rates are not going to calm down until probably 2 weeks after in the middle of January, if not even further into February. and in the US. And I mean, I'm not happy about it as an eBay seller. It affects my business tremendously.
Absolutely. Now the deadline that I have set on the campaign for fulfillment is February, but I've been very, very lucky in the past in being able to beat the deadline by a month or two, exceeded by a month or two ahead of schedule. So fingers crossed that I could get it out even before that. So, but again, a lot of that will depend upon the printers and how fast the shipping goes here as well, getting them from the printers.
And the reason why I bring this up is that, as I stated, obviously my sponsor gives a 5% discount, and shipping matters. And if you have a discount, or even if shipping is 50 cents less per package, but you're shipping out 300 packages, it adds up really, really quickly.
Oh, it really does. Yeah.
And so I know this because sometimes I've shipped out 30 packages in a week. And all of a sudden, if it's a higher shipping rate, it might only be $30 extra, but if your profit margins are only 15%, that cuts right into your profit margin of about 4%, which is crazy. And my profit margins are much higher than that. I'm a very good eBay seller, so I deal with high-end merch. I deal with merch that usually $50 or more for a reason.
I found that out the hard way with my very first campaign because I didn't know the exact cost of shipping. So I was guesstimating it, and I guessed it a lot, and I really hurt myself drastically on that campaign. But it was definitely a learning experience in the end.
That's why I'm only doing digital rewards for my Kickstarter, because digital rewards, the shipping, you should see my shipping price. $300 to ship to Australia.
Oh, wow.
$600 to Canada. My digital reward tiers, it's great. But if you get it physical, free.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Completely. Physical rewards are completely free. Shipped to you. Digital rewards, totally going to charge you like an arm and a leg. Completely. It's going to be great.
That's
going to be great. It's my favorite tier is that you could pay me to get off my mailing list. It's going to be great. It's going to be great.
That's an original idea, that's for sure.
I saw a Kickstarter that said $25 to get on my mailing list, and my response to that is that people pay to get off mailing lists.
Right. Yeah. Wow.
So I'm just saying. But getting back to Sister Mercy, complete sidebar right there about mailing. And then now my digital tiers, everybody, you heard it here first. It's really expensive shipping on my digital tiers. You charge a lot for your digital tiers too, right? The shipping is it's really rough, right?
Oh, absolutely. That digital snail mail is it's so pricey.
I mean, you should see my finger. I do curls with my finger up and down, up and down. You think it's just simply I tap the enter button and we're off to the races? God knows, it's tough. I like how Larry from Niobe Comics is like $22 sounds about right. So what he put up for his, because he's in Canada too. And he has a project, and it's going to be expensive because I know I just backed this project up from Canada, and the shipping was whatever. The only good thing about that was that the dollar's stronger. Also, word wise for people who are backing, don't use debit cards if you're buying international, because most banks will charge you a 3% fee on top of it as an international charge. I found that out the hard way as well. And when you're backing a tier that's like $100 or $200, it gets very expensive very quickly.
Okay, that's interesting. Did not know that.
So I use credit cards. A lot of credit cards don't charge international fees, which is very, very cool. So, obviously, you should probably call up your credit card to see if they don't charge a fee or how you can avoid the fee. But it's very important because when you're backing, 6 projects from Canada, all of a sudden it could be $10, $15 in fees that could go to another project. So that's something to keep in mind as well. But even talking about the sketchbook, because I actually really like the idea for a sketchbook. And I encourage a lot of people, with arts in. I know you're not going to reprint it on a book, but I would love to see this in a sketchbook because I can't afford every single cover on a Kickstarter or in mainstream comics. And I think it's such a nice thing for people to say, look, I can't, I can only afford 2 covers or 3 covers. I can't afford all 5 or all 4 or all 3 covers that came out in the book. But now that they're all in this book, I can actually see what they look like. I can see, what it actually was supposed to look like on the cover. I can actually see who's the artist. I didn't even realize this artist worked on this book, And so I think it's very cool, especially also just from a documentation standpoint, as well as it keeps art alive because sometimes, there's so many projects on Kickstarter that Steph Wilson is doing so many covers. And I hate to sing out Steph, but he has probably he's got all these covers out there. He just did, which is a Westchester, and he had a cover there. And then you go and look down something else, and he's got like 5 covers there. If you type in his name on Kickstarter, I don't think he's ever done a Kickstarter himself, but he's involved in so many of them.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And it started out as the Sister Mercy sketch. That's what the tier is called. That's what the original cover graphic I had built said. But based upon a comment actually on my Facebook page from a fellow comic creator, Richard Boom, who does the Sisterhood series, he said Sketchbook was really underselling it for a title, and it deserves something a little bit more, as an art book. So, and when the backers get it, it'll say The Art of Sister Mercy is actually going to be the final title when it actually goes to print.
It all goes back to ideas. You could say I'm an intern, or you could say I'm a fellow. Words matter. That's all I'm going to say is that words can change the way something is perceived.
Absolutely. Yep, for sure.
And look, words can be deceiving too. There's plenty of deceiving things that words do. Somebody says I was in a top 100 business podcasts. Well, it could be deceiving is all I'm going to say. But at the same time, I think everybody knows what an art book looks like. Also, a sketchbook. When I pick up a sketchbook, and this is just how I view it, I'm expecting something like J. Scott Campbell's sketchbook is very different than a J. Scott Campbell art book.
And this is something that I gathered from the comments, the conversation I had with Richard. That's basically what he had said. People would probably be expecting unfinished art, uncolored art, stuff like that, when in actuality, every page is a finished piece.
This is more of what is known as a cover gallery type of book.
Yeah, that is all, yeah.
And then so you're seeing things like pinups. So Zenescope does this very well, where I happen to love Zenescope, and they'll have like the swimsuit edition, and it's an 8-page comic in the front of something that's just like a sort of standalone story, and then they have all these artists like Chris Enha, and then they have Ali Garza and Ebas and Don Mateague, or Mateague, right. It's Mateague, and then they'll have like a second.
I thought it was Mateague. Okay.
Mateague, from my understanding. I know because he's been on like 3 times, and I get it wrong every time. I'm bad at it. I'm sorry, Larry. If you're still watching, I'm sorry. He's Canadian, so I should know this. Even though he calls me blue shirt guy, which is getting annoying. I'm not happy about that. I own up to it too, which is great. Which about the comments, it's just great. I don't know if I'm welcome back on that show though, so that's neither here nor there. But I just got myself lost completely. Anyway, that I love the concept because I really appreciate when people do these types of books because it does also collect everything that's been done. And one of the cool things about Sister Mercy as a whole, and that you've done in I think the last 3 campaigns in particularly well, is you have amazing cover artists. I mean, you have had Mike Chrome, you've had Steph Wilson. There's a few others that are slipping my mind here, But obviously, the angelic one that was in, issue 4. I can't look at the guy's name off the top of my head.
Yeah, Paul Anderson. or Marco the Archangelus.
Yes, the second one where it looks almost like a blend, like a 3D blend between being drawn and almost painted, if that makes any sense.
I hope to work with him again in the future for another picture because I really love that one as well myself.
I really enjoyed that one, and it's a weird cover, not to the sense that it's a weird cover, but it's like a weird art style, if that makes any sense.
Not a typical comic book cover. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, that it looks, but it's not like a Carla Cohen that looks like a cosplayer, but it's painted. It's like a weird blended. I don't know how he did it. It'd be super interesting to see that thing being developed in like a sped up video. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I would pay extra to see that. I'm not gonna lie. Um,
Right on.
but and then also there's some original art I think up for sale with Sister Mercy, and then I think that Ricardo Silva's doing some other stuff too, as well as an additional tier with this. And so there's a lot of stuff that can be bought from pretty much just that regular affordable prices all the way up the tier for whatever you want that can be achieved in this entire Kickstarter. If there's something you want in Sister Mercy, you can get it through this Kickstarter.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you can't, well, go to a church. And then I do want to talk about stretch goals, though. So you've done something very interesting with your stretch goals, where you do stickers. You've done magnets, which are traditional, but you've entered into BDI's territory now with poker chips.
Yeah, I backed the Flesh Eating Cheerleaders campaign and got poker chips along with a couple of other campaigns since, but those were the first ones that I got and I loved them. And I instantly thought, yeah, that was a top priority. Sister Mercy poker chip. I had to have one.
CB Zane does it now. Everybody's doing it. It's a very popular entity at this point. It's a very popular, I guess, tier. It's part of the entire, I guess, idea, and it's also really hot at the moment. And so what was that like, introducing it with the graphic novel? Because it fits, I feel, more with the graphic novel at this point than it does with the single issues, if that makes sense.
It does. It was fun. And plus the graphic novel gives me a bit of the opportunity to go back and use some of the art from the previous issues since it's featured in there as well. So on that poker chip, it has the Mike Chrome cover back from issue 3. It's the piece of art, I believe, that I used on that one. And yeah, that was a lot of fun. So happy to launch that, and I can't wait for them to arrive because I think I'm maybe I'm my own biggest fan. I don't know, but I look forward to having that Sister Mercy poker show.
And to even talk about this, because obviously I threw something out. I had this discussion with Larry Higgins, who's Niobe Comics. I think he runs that channel.
Does some great work.
Yeah, and so I had this discussion about how do people earn my money on Kickstarter. And where I'm at is that usually there's about 4 projects every month, because I usually try to back 1 a month. And what winds up happening is that I look at it and say, okay, the story looks better. I know the artist. This project looks good. Where is it shipping from? Am I interested in the project? Do I have enough money at this point? What came first? And then I say, okay, who has stretch goals that are interesting? If somebody's going to offer me an additional comic, that gets me a little bit closer to where we're going. So like BDI, Tom Hutchinson for he sometimes offers additional comics, or he offers metal cards, or he offers those poker chips. CB Zane offered a poker chip. Who's going to be adding additional content to the book? Who's going to upgrade the cover of that book? So Travis Gibb did that, where he basically took the cover and then he did it was Cthulhu Invades Oz, and he did glow in the dark on the cover.
Cool.
So yeah,
that's a great idea.
So it's really cool when you now flick off the lights and you put your book in the sunlight for 4 hours, and then you could see it. It looks pretty cool. So it's the idea that is what dictates me. And then when people have things that are actually different. So I love metal cards. Metal cards is a stretch goal that gets me very excited. Magnets don't. Stickers, I could give 2 shits about stickers. They don't do anything for me. I understand why people do stickers, because they're cheap, they're affordable. But if like Jamie Tyndall for Miss Meow Merc Magazine, he did an 11x17 art print in his project that everybody got. That's like a big deal. Now I understand that's not an expensive thing to necessarily do, but at the same time, it's at least go big or go home to some degree. And so like that, I don't know what gets you over the hump necessarily when you're backing projects, and even what to deliver. because you got to earn my dollar now, especially when there's 260 projects on Kickstarter. You have to earn my dollar, and it's story is not enough anymore.
Right. For the stretch goals for me, again, with the shipping, I try to make sure it's not something that's going to put the weight of the project of each package substantially over. Right. But at the same time, I want it to be something I'd like to I'm trying to pay attention to what people seem to respond to the most, and also what myself as a fan who's backed a ton of projects with the stuff that I like getting. So I noticed with the stickers, people seem to really like the stickers. I like the stickers as well. Somebody that's sticker bombing.
I'm the outlier.
You're the outlier on those.
Fine.
You're a fan of the fridge magnets, though, right? So you went amongst what many others
are useful because I have things on my refrigerator. It's a useful item, and also for me with a magnet, it's cool. Sister Mercy's up there 3 months, and then I guess it goes out of rotation for like a year, right? Because I just mix it up. But like I got things that have to go up on my refrigerator. You know, I'm not going to go put up a nude magnet on my refrigerator because at some point I'm going to have kids, and well, you know, I don't want my 5-year-old looking at a half-naked nun when they're 5. When they're 7, it's all right. When they're 7, they're already corrupted enough in the United States.
If they've been to the school system, right? It's
hey. If you're not corrupted by the age of 7 in the United States, you have to become a priest. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, but no, there's also some great stretch goals coming up, like with the previous campaigns. I like doing. I still have some of the original art from some of the earlier issues, some of the actual pages, and in previous campaigns I've done draws for 5 pages of those. And Ricardo was also he sent me a package from Brazil that had not only some of the original art, but actually the original sketches, 4 per page and stuff. So there's going to be a lot of prize draws coming up as well, and enough so that everybody stands a really good chance at getting something, right? So that's coming up in some of the later tiers also.
Yeah, no, and I think it's important in which that, you know, obviously stretch goals impact how I buy, because at this stage in the game, when there's so much competition out there, I need something that pushes me over. And it sort of leads me into my question here is that, and I had this discussion with somebody else, and the way I view it is that Kickstarter, in my opinion, I'm curious how you feel, is there's so many projects on Kickstarter, and there seems to be more and more. And the question becomes is that can it sustain itself? And it's because the way I view it is that I back 1 a month. You know, I don't even know in November if I'm going to back any because, well, money's tight. You know, stimulus in the U.S. is ending. Also, things are opening up. Holidays are coming up. And money is now going out into a bunch of different areas. And the question I have is that has it gotten too big and it needs to recede? Because in the investing side of comics, I feel that things are overhyped tremendously right now. And I think that there's a lot of, you know, people have money and people have fear of missing out. And I think things are 20 to 30 and possibly even 40% overvalued. And I think a lot of people are going to lose their shirts. I mean, I think we've seen this with Pokemon cards, where in the middle of the pandemic, everybody was buying Pokemon cards, and those cards are now worth below what people paid for them. You know, we saw with Michael Jordan, it was like a 1-of-1 Michael Jordan card or a 1-of-10, and people were paying like $5 million or like $50 million for one of them, and now it's selling for $30 million. Now it doesn't mean that it's not going to go back up to 50 million plus or go from 3 to 5. I forget the actual number, but I think the point is made. It's just that people overpaid for stuff, and I feel with Kickstarter, I'm curious how you feel, where there's, in my opinion, there's too many, and it's not sustainable at this point.
Well, definitely shocked to see how many are on there this month. This is probably the most that I've ever seen up there at any one particular time. But I don't
160 right now on it. Okay. And I could pull it up right now, actually. But continue. I'm looking it up right now on the chart. If I could pull it up.
But for the most part, I browse. I look for campaigns that I like to back myself. But I usually don't pay too much attention or put too much thought, I guess, into that. I just, the fun part for me is creating the comic book and hoping that people like it and that people buy it. And so far, I've been lucky enough that trend's continuing, right? So I'm just going to just keep going with it for as long as I can, and try not to read too much into the market and other details, and just hope that what I'm doing keeps working the way that it has been. And on a side note, something to remember, if we do an interview for Sister Mercy 5 here in a few months, remember this moment, because I got an idea when I was talking to you, and I just wrote it down right there, for a couple of covers. And I am so happy with this idea. I can't help but grin, and I just got to figure out the artists that I'm going to get to line them up. And we'll talk about it on your show, because it's something that hasn't been done yet, and I'm really, really happy with that idea. I had to write it down instantly, so it's all there.
Well, I'm glad I can be of assistance, and I can't find the actual number, but I know there's a lot
for the moment.
And I'm sure you're going to give me a hint off air of what to expect, so I can start saving up my money in January, and hopefully I'll have money. Hopefully I'll be starting. I'll be getting paid, and I'll have a little bit of money after I make sure that I'm economically healthy again, and hopefully I can go waste some money on Kickstarter and figure something out. And who knows? Maybe at the end of November, I'll be rich. I'll be filthy rich. If everything goes accordingly, I'll be super stoked with my project that's coming. That's all I care about.
I look forward to it.
Yeah, my project's gonna be fun. I got some very, very cool rewards that everybody's gonna hate me on. Everybody's gonna hate me on them, and I know everybody's gonna hate me on them. And they're not gonna hate me because it's a bad idea. They're gonna hate me because they didn't think of it first. And it's going to be ripped off. I know it's going to be ripped off, my idea, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to be serving people with paper saying you owe me a royalty.
There you go. Imitation is the greatest form of flattery.
Stealing is the greatest form of flattery.
There we go.
Still an idea. You're not asking. You're just saying, "Hey, this is mine now." But I digress. I would ask you about cons, but I think we've already beat that up. Kickstarter, obviously, we just beat that up. And so the only other question I have, because I know you want to go watch hockey, is where can people find Sister Mercy? Because I know it's back on Kickstarter. And then even going beyond the Kickstarter, though, where can people find you on Twitter? Where can people find you on Facebook? Where can people find you, Instagram, Snapchat, any other place where it might be, obviously a website, because all that stuff matters. Email lists are big now.
Absolutely.
So
on Facebook, on Facebook, you can find us at Sister Mercy Comic Book, and on Instagram, just also Sister Mercy. And to purchase some of the back issues outside of Kickstarter, you can go to Indie Planet and just do a search for Sister Mercy or CWH Comics on Indie Planet, and that's about it for the most part. I avoid Twitter like the plague, but I'm on I'm the rest of those.
Oh, I love Twitter. I love Twitter. Yeah, and I love Instagram.
I struggle with it. It's just, I don't know why. It's just, I've tried it a few times, and it's just one of those things. I don't gel with it at all.
Understand. Twitter is weird sometimes. But I digress. This is not a podcast about Twitter. It's a podcast about and pop culture for that matter. So obviously, and I encourage. I backed the first. I didn't back issues 1 and 2. I bought those digitally, but I did back 3 and I did back 4. And I'm just cash poor, so I'm sitting out this one. Regrettably, I'm just cash poor, and I need to go cry, and hopefully I'll lick my wounds very peacefully. But money's tight. Money's elastic when money's tight. You can stretch a dollar in a lot of ways. You can't rip a dollar, but you can stretch it. But having said all that, in all seriousness, though, you need to back, and support indie content creators and comic writers and artists and everybody in between. And the way you do that is you back their Kickstarters, you follow them on social media, you share out their projects, you actually share it on your wall, you tweet about it, you share it in your Instagram story, you tell somebody, because unfortunately algorithms are not what they used to be. And it happens all the time where somebody's like, oh man, I didn't even know this project was going on for the last 20 days. And you've been promoting it every day. It just never appeared in my feed. And even in Facebook groups, even in Facebook walls. I hear stories all the time where people are like, "You're my friend, and I didn't know that you had a project going on." And so obviously, the more things get shared, the more people that get shared with, the more it appears out there, and it goes a long way. You know, sharing something, if you're not backing it, can be just as effective because you don't know who's watching, and you don't know who's going to see it, and you don't know what amount of money that person is going to spend or who they're going to tell. And it goes a long way, and you have to do that. You know, sharing is just as important, and in many cases more important than backing an actual project. Furthermore, I am an indie content creator, so I appreciate everybody who shares my stuff out there. You know, all I really want is a share. You know, money's great, and you could go buy me a coffee, and it'd be great. And I appreciate money because money goes a long way too. But what I really want is I want likes, shares. You know, like my Facebook page goes a long way. You know, I have an interview tonight, I think at 9 o'clock. You know, watch that interview, comment on my interviews. It goes a long way. It's just as important. In many cases, it's more important than money at this point. Also, if you're printing a project, use Mixum if you're in the States or Canada or Australia or the UK because they're great. Use my code, Andrew Davis Message, to have 5% off. And because that's how they know I sent you there and you're getting a discount. And on that note, I'm going to give you the final word before you go watch hockey.
No, thank you very much once again for having me on the show. And for anybody that's interested, Sister Mercy's out there on Kickstarter. Go and check it out. Like you said, share. If it's not something you're interested in backing, by all means, still feel free to share it. And if you've read it, drop us a line. Let us know what you think. And thank everybody that's shown interest and or will be showing interest. It's greatly appreciated.
Yeah. I think that's the best way how to end right there. And again, you know, hopefully your team's going to win.
Right? Big time.
And on that note, I don't think I could top myself any more than I did at this moment. So I think that is a wrap.
Awesome. Good night, everybody.